This is section 3, Work with Classes and Modules. In this section, we'll look at defining classes, using class parameters, adding classes to our nodes, capturing files in modules, and using classes and defines in our modules. Defining classes. In this video, we'll look at placing resource into classes, we'll talk about class syntax, and we'll look at including classes in our node manifests. So as we add more and more resources to our Puppet code, we ask Puppet to automate more and more things, we quickly get into a need to organize all of these resources. Now we've said that within the manifests directory, we can divide things up into multiple files, multiple subdirectories with files in it, and Puppet will look through all of those subdirectories, all of those files, we'll find all of the resources and apply them. But that only gets us part of what we need. We also need the ability to apply certain resources to multiple different nodes, but potentially we don't want to apply the resources to every single node. So we need a way to organize that lets us reuse the same resources in multiple nodes. Now if we just do that in the manifests directory, because Puppet only applies one node manifest to a node, we'd have to start copy-paste, we'd have to duplicate resources, all of that would be undesirable. So we want a different way to organize our Puppet code, and that's exactly what modules and classes are for. So far, we've been working our way through the production environment, a typical directory layout here with production being the default environment. We've talked a lot about what goes into the manifests directory. We've talked about Puppet resources. Now we're going to take a look at the modules directory. And within the modules directory, we're going to have a subdirectory for each module that we've created within our Puppet code. And we'll be able to take those modules, the classes that are defined in them, and we'll be able to apply them to multiple nodes. So each directory under modules will be a separate module. You can imagine in our example, since we're installing the Elk stack, that we would have a module for Elasticsearch, a module for Logstash, a module for Kibana, each of which would have a class inside that applies those resources. Now a Puppet class is just a way to group resources in a reusable way. So we take a set of resources that are all related to each other, they're all, say, Elasticsearch related resources, we put them together into a single container, and then we can reuse that in different ways across multiple nodes in our system. Let's take a look at an example of what that looks like. So if I start from the modules directory here at the top level of my Puppet production environment, you can see I have a subdirectory for all of the modules that I've defined, or in some cases for modules that I've imported from internet sources. Now one of those is FileBeat. FileBeat is a module that is designed to install a listener onto all of our client nodes. It collects logs from those clients and it ships them to Logstash. Within FileBeat, you'll notice we still have a manifests directory. So we're still going to have a manifests directory to put our Puppet code in, but it's within the context of this FileBeat module. Inside there you see a file init.pp, and that is a standard name in Puppet. You will want to use that. And then within that init.pp, what Puppet will expect to find is it will expect to find a class definition, just like we have here, and that class definition needs to match the name of the module that you're declaring it in. So if the module in this case is called FileBeat, then this class in init.pp also has to be called FileBeat. In an upcoming video, we'll talk about how to make multiple classes in the same module, but for starters, there's always going to be one that has the same name as the module. You'll notice that we open with this curly brace to collect all of these resources together, close with another curly brace, and so everything that's in the middle here, all this package and file and service, all these resources, those all belong to the class. So what we've done is we've defined a class that will install, configure, and start FileBeat. Now we need a way to apply it to a node. And we do that in our top level manifests in our node definition. So here we have the node definition for all of our clients, any number of clients that match this regular expression. And you can see we have an include statement, and then we include FileBeat. Now the reason I included these two little colons up here is just because it's very common to see that in Puppet code, and I wanted you to be familiar with it. What this indicates is that we are at the top level of all of the scope. So Puppet knows that it's going to the top level, and then it's finding a class that's right at that top level. So, for the purposes of our work here today, we actually don't need those colons, so you can do with them or do without them, but they're very commonly used just for clarity, and so I wanted you to be familiar with that syntax, that style. So now that we have this include of the FileBeat class, we can jump over to our client, and we can run the Puppet agent in test mode, as we've seen previously. Now what this will do is it will reach out to the server, it will see the node manifest for the clients, it will identify that the FileBeat class has been included in this node definition, and it will apply the resources from that FileBeat class that we've created. And you'll notice that as it creates the FileBeat file, as it installs the service, as it starts that service, you'll notice that when it shows you the resource that it applied, it shows you that it's part of that FileBeat class. So effectively what we've done here is we've created a container for all of those resources. We've put that into a class, we put that class into a module, and it becomes very easy now. As you can see, if we go back to the code example, we're not limited to just applying this FileBeat resources to just our clients. We can also easily apply it to our Puppet server, make it a client of the Elk stack, and we can reuse that same Puppet code without having to do any copy-paste or duplicating any resources. So that concludes our look at classes and how to define them.